All right, afternoon everyone. It's Kevin with Halo Power Solutions. We are live on location here in Edmonton where we are doing a 200 amp service upgrade on a older home with a overhead service. So this house originally has, or at this point, originally has a 100 amp overhead service going to the house. And what we are doing is increasing the service to 200 amps and installing the 200 amp service on the garage. Now, by putting the 200 amp service on the garage, this allows the customer to now get their electric vehicle. So it'll come out of the 200 amp panel in the garage. There'll be the charging station for the EV. Also allows them to put a hot tub in the backyard if they choose to, and the hot tub power would come from the garage instead of the house. So yeah, lots of options when you do the overhead service upgrade and install it on the garage. So let's take a little tour and I'll show you what we did. But you can see right now it has the original overhead service on the house, and then you've got your overhead lines coming across and go way back out to the pole on the alley. Typical of almost all the homes in this neighborhood. All right, so we're standing in the backyard and you can see, oh look, there's a new service mast on the back of the garage. Well, let's go in the alley and see actually what we've done here. Okay, so we're in the back alley and you can see we have installed a new 200 amp meter socket. We just had our electrical inspector come out and you can see he passed the installation, no issues. And we'll step back here, you can see the new meter socket goes through the roof, and there you go. There is our new 200 amp rated mast, and that cable will eventually be connected back to the pole. So what that means is no more overhead wires going to the house for the electrical. Now, in addition, we're also putting in a second mast so that our customer can have TELUS also run underground from the house. I talked to the technician from TELUS and he's explained what he wants, and yeah, so it's going to be nice. You're going to have no overhead lines going through the backyard now. It's all going to connect on the garage, and that'll be that. I'm going to pop open this meter socket here and show you what's going on inside. So here's a glimpse inside our 200 amp meter socket. You guys did a really nice job with the terminations. I like how they've left a nice loop in here. If there's ever any problems inside this meter socket and the wire had to be cut back and re-terminated, you see we got lots of extra slack. So you can see the top up here, that's the line side because that's where the utility feed is coming in. Of course, that goes up the mast. And then down here, we'll call this the load side. So that's nice loops here, goes through this fitting, and then pops into the panel on the other side of the wall. So really nice install the guys did here. Looks great. Okay, so cover's back on. So you notice the mast that we put up here, it's actually quite a large conduit. It's a rigid steel pipe, 2.5 inches. The reason we went 2.5 is we have to get a lot of height. So our point of connection is 5.5 feet above the roof line, which is what EBCAR specified. And the weatherhead up there is actually 6 feet above the roof. And the reason being is because we want to keep that overhead cable nice and high. You can imagine the amount of traffic that comes down the alley here, especially with garbage trucks and that sort of thing. The last thing you want is a truck coming through and tearing off that overhead line. So that is one big beefy conduit, and yeah, you'd be able to hang a truck off that thing. All right, so I'm backing out of the wind here. So by installing the overhead service on the garage, we're eliminating that overhead line that's running to the house right now, which makes it really nice, especially if you build a deck in the backyard. Happens a lot where customers build a deck in the yard and then all of a sudden they can reach up and pretty much grab that overhead line that's going to the house. So we've got the 200 amp service running at the garage, and what we're also doing is putting in a second smaller mast and an underground conduit back to the house for TELUS. So that will eliminate the phone line running back over to the house because it'll hit the garage and then go underground. So really gonna clean things up here in the backyard. Okay, so behind me is our new electrical panel. And what we've put in is a 200 amp rated electrical panel. It's got a main 200 amp breaker. And then in this panel, we will be installing a 125 amp breaker, and that's gonna feed the house. So we've increased the service to the actual home to 125 amps from the 100 amp. And having the 200 amp panel in here, like I mentioned, allows them to put in a charger for electric vehicle. If they want a hot tub in the backyard, we would power it from this 200 amp panel in the garage. Having a look here, we have a Homeline 200 amp panel. You can see that there, it's got the main 200 amp breaker. And there's our wiring going out to the 200 amp meter socket on the outside. We've used a 3/0 copper wire rated for 200 amps. And then we've also got going on, we're still working on it, but this is now going to be the feed to the house. And this is a 2/0 aluminum ACWU. And ACWU stands for Armored Cable Wet Underground, which means the stuff's pretty much bulletproof. We can bury it, run it, exposed surface mount, and because it's aluminum, it's lighter to work with. No issues using the larger aluminum stranded cable. It's not like the aluminum wire that we hear about in the old homes from the 70s. So that cable's going up into the attic, and then our guys have ran it across the garage, and then it pops outside. So we completed the trenching in the backyard a few days ago, right before we got this wicked rainstorm here in Edmonton. So right now we've got the yard all tarped off and plywood over the trench, and it's got water in the trench. It's a mud hole, so we're gonna have to give this a couple of days to dry out. But I'll just give you a glimpse of the trench that we have and show you where the ground plate is. And I'm not gonna pull this back too much because it's pretty big. You can see our underground cable going down. We're 2 feet down into the trench, and we've also got our ground plate. That's where the green wire is going. And that now becomes the main service ground for our 200 amp panel in the garage. We'll cover this back up. Weather's holding up pretty good. Oh, look at that. There's actually a little bit of blue sky right now. Now, normally when you see your main electrical panel in your house, you probably notice that the breaker's at the top. But on this particular installation, it made sense for us to flip the panel over and put the breaker at the bottom. And with these Homeline panels, they can be mounted either way. So yeah, you can see the 200 amp breaker is at the bottom. What's nice about that is now we can bring the secondary feed that's going to go back to the house right out the top. Like I say, these are the cables for it. We'll be installing a 125 amp breaker somewhere on this side of the panel. And it'll be a nice, neat, clean install that will repower the house when we actually do that switch over. And we're about a week out till we do that. So there's a couple of critical measurements we need to maintain that are required by the electrical code and also by the utility company. So, and this applies to any time you have a new panel installed. The maximum height of your very top breaker in the panel is not supposed to be any higher than 1.7 meters from the floor. So we'll take a look at this one here and just see where the guys put it. I hope it's not any higher than 1.7. All right, I got my tape measure out here. So the top breaker will be sitting right about here. And drum roll. Yeah, the guys are fine. We're about just over 1.6 meters to the top of that breaker. And what's nice about that is anybody at almost any height can access the panel and get to the right breaker they need. In the old homes, sometimes we see these breaker panels way up there. You need a ladder or step stool to get to the main breaker, but not the case here, and it is a code requirement. So same thing applies with the meter socket, and it just makes sense. If the linemen from Edmonton or Fortis, if you're in Strathcona County or Parkland County, if they have to pull the meter above the meter socket, they need to be able to reach it at a safe height. So one requirement is that we've got lots of access in front. You want to have a good meter in front of that electrical meter, so 3 feet. And then the center of the meter socket is not supposed to be any higher than 1.8 meters. I actually give you a measurement of between 1.5 and 1.8. So let's see where we're sitting. All right, here we can see 2.63 meters. So that's perfect. Good working height for the guys from EPCOR. They got to work on this thing. All right, so we got the panel cover back on, as you can see behind me there, and pretty much all we can do right now until we get that cable buried in the backyard. So we're going to let this, hopefully let the sun shine for a couple days, dry out the yard so we're not shoveling mud. And we'll get that trench backfilled, and then the next step will be putting the new panel inside the house. On that day, that's when we're going to get the new 200 amp service on the garage powered up, and from there these customers will be ready for really whatever the future holds. Electric vehicle, hot tub. They just put air conditioning on the house, so between this 200 amp panel in the garage and the new 125 amp panel in the house, they are set up. And, you know, we've been getting more and more requests for these 200 amp upgrades. We've got 4 of them on the go right now, and it's not even summer yet. And, you know, if you've got an overhead service like this place in the older neighborhoods, it's a lot easier for us to do the upgrade, and the costs are minimal to none from EPCOR. Now, if you've got a home with an underground 100 amp service and you want to upgrade to 200 amps, you can expect the bill from EPCOR to be, we've had quotes of $20,000 to $30,000 depending on what's involved to upgrade the underground line from EPCOR's transformer back to your home. And that doesn't include our bill to actually do the work on the house. But yeah, if you want to look at doing this type of upgrade on your home, especially if you've got a detached garage in the back, great option. Give us a call. We are happy to come out and give you that complimentary quote. And if no one in your block has done it yet, you want to take advantage of that. It's always good to be one of the first few to request that 200 amp upgrade on your home, because it gets to a point where the transformer can only handle so many upgrades before EPCOR or whoever your utility company is going to have to do an upgrade to the infrastructure. And that's when the costs can arise. So you want to be first. Okay, have a great day, everybody. We'll see you next time. Well, that's all the time we have today. I'm Kevin with Halo Power Solutions. Thanks for joining me. If you are watching this video on Facebook, please like it, share it. Make sure you like our Halo Power Facebook page. And if you're on YouTube, we'd love for you to subscribe, and please leave some comments. I'd love to get some feedback on what you think about these videos. Have a great day. We'll see you soon.